have heard a famous dialogue that has become synonymous with the sad state of judiciary in India.
और यही होता रहा है मिलाद, तारीख पर तारीख.
Soon you may not hear this often, or maybe not at all. How did this happen? Or rather, how is this happening? And who is behind this monumental transformation? Justice Uday Umesh Lalit is emerging as a hero, not with a cape but with a coat and a gown. Having taken oath as the 49th Chief Justice of India on 27 August 2022, with just 74 days at the helm, his short tenure is set against the race of time. Few decisions taken by him are already being lauded. It is no less to say that he has started a judicial revolution.
Justice of India, UU Lalit, has done something very phenomenal, which could have been done by several of his predecessors, but unfortunately that didn't happen. He focused on clearing the backlog at the Supreme Court, which runs into almost 74,000 cases.
This comes at a time when the whole country is making leaping reforms in every sector, be it the defense, economics and policy. But judiciary is one aspect which is in slumber.
While the rest of the wings of the government and the nation are moving ahead, this should not be a drag. In fact, a famous analyst had actually calculated and said that decisions made by the Supreme Court have had an impact of reducing our GDP by about 2%, at least, in the last decade.
Reforms in the judiciary are long overdue, and there are increasing calls for them in the country. Government of India had earlier passed an NJAC Act unanimously in the Parliament but was struck down by the Supreme Court. The Act sought to set up a constitutional body to make the appointments of the Supreme Court and High Court judges more transparent. Since then, it has been pending.
Collegium system again reeks of some kind of a cartelization. The NJAC was overthrown by the Supreme Court in spite of the fact that the people's representatives in the Parliament have passed it unanimously. Still, the court, the lordships so deemed it fit that they are custodians of law more than the people. This needs to change. Their accountability has to change.
Justice Lalit listed 25 constitutional bench cases on his very first day.
25 such benches were created and 25 such cases were heard simultaneously within the last 1 month. Whereas the previous chief justices hardly had about 10 or 11 of them in the past many years.
He also began to address the alarming pendency of over 71,000 cases in Apex Code by creating more benches.
In a very short period that he has been around, for about 10-15 days, he cleared more than 5,000-6,000 cases. This could have been easily targeted by others. But we see that they went for glory and they picked up cases where it suited them, probably their thinking processes, or probably where there was a tremendous amount of pressures, political or otherwise, on them. Whereas there have been cases which have been pending for donkey years, which have not been touched. The dates have not been announced. UU Lalit took that bold decision of ushering in this urgency and seriousness about those cases. Some of those cases, which include the case regarding Shabarimala issue, or it could be to do with the temple lands that are with the government, the Hindu Endowments Act itself, that the lands have to be returned back to the Hindus. And there are several other such cases. These things always inevitably go into the back burner, whereas certain issues with regard to, we know that what happened to Zubair case, or it could be to do with Afzal Guru. The Supreme Courts have been opening up late into the night and then passing judgments. So that is the travesty of the justice system.
A new listing system for hearing cases aimed at increasing focus on admitted cases was introduced. What is the new listing system like? In the new system, judges on non-miscellaneous days, that is Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, firstly take up old cases in the morning and then fresh cases in the post-lunch session. On September 15, 2022, the Supreme Court Registry announced it was dropping 13,147 cases pending before the registry, which had defects and were ignored by the parties for 8 years. Although dropping the cases did not make any difference in the overall pending cases, the registry functioned to screen cases of procedural defects to ensure whether they are fit for hearing by the judges got a momentum. On September 26th, the registry announced that 300 after notice cases would be listed for hearing before different benches. The implication being the court is now focusing on clearing long pending cases over prioritizing fresh admission hearings. On September 27th, which marked 1 month of Justice Lalit in office, 8 lakh viewers turned into the first ever live session to watch proceedings that were going on before 3 constitution benches.
The most significant change that he has brought about is live telecasting of proceedings, especially constitutional cases related hearings that are going on in Supreme Court.
Apart from that, the Supreme Court headed by CJI Lalit is looking at past judicial performance to make recommendations to appointment of judges to the top court. With these positive and constructive steps, Supreme Court has disposed of a total of 5,113 cases in just a span of 13 days. But are his decisions like appointments of judges to the bench facing roadblocks? While these measures are laudable, it has to be seen what long-term plans does the top court have for institutional reforms. As the country celebrated its 75th Independence Day and the Prime Minister's speech finds 5 resolves, one of its decolonization of the nation, its institutions and the people, can the judiciary, a continuation of the colonial legacy, be reformed to the needs and character of the Indian society?
While the rest of the country has been moving forward, we are moving away from the British legacies and we are trying to decolonize. This is one institution which just simply refuses to decolonize. Even now, they have summer holidays and winter holidays, Christmas holidays, which the British needed it. British couldn't take the heat of the subcontinent. They used to go to Shimla or somewhere else and then have their holidays. And then during the Christmas, they used to go to England. So both these periods were holidays. And then Puja holidays were very critical because British rule was based out of Kolkata. So all these 3 holidays are a massive drag on the nation. While the rest of the institutions function almost relentlessly all throughout the year, save the 1 odd day of public holiday. Why should the courts not work during those days? The justification given is that the judges have a lot of work even outside the court time. Well, that's the case with everybody. That's the case with the bureaucracy as well. That's the case with the legislature. That's the case with politicians. It's the case with everybody. Everybody has workload and they need to learn how to manage it. The problem is the timing also from morning 10 to evening 4. You know, it's absolutely colonial in its approach. The way the dress codes are mentioned, the way one of the previous former Chief Justice said that only English has to be used in Supreme Court. It reeks of colonized mindset. In contempt of court is a law which comes from the British era. Because the white judges needed to be protected, they brought in this law to protect the judge. It has gone to such an extent that genuine criticism of lack of reforms or lack of application of the law in any judgment is also considered to be a contempt of court, which is wrong. It is not some abuse or accusation against the court, but it is a genuine difference of opinion. That needs to be respected. In democracy, no institution should be above people's scrutiny, and courts cannot escape that. If they make some judgments, if they pass some comments, the people have every right to question it. So the judiciary has to reform. Judiciary has to be more transparent, and it cannot be sitting in Delhi. It has to go down to the grassroots levels. How can somebody sitting in Karaikal or somebody sitting in Mawlangwong or somebody sitting in Baramulla access justice if it has been denied to them in their local courts? Supreme Courts have to confine themselves only to constitutional matters, and rest of it, state high courts have to be given the full powers. When every single case keeps moving up to the Supreme Court and there is a fancy for the Supreme Courts to sit on judgments on how many oxygen cylinders the government has to provide to a certain municipality, or whether milk or curd or water has to be poured on the shivling of Mahakal, or whether Diwali crackers should be allowed or not, then I think they've gone too much into what is purely a domain of administration and executive. They have absolutely no business in entertaining all these things. Who are they to decide on matters purely of faith and religion, and which are adjudicated by the local governments? Supreme Court is a supreme arbiter or supreme judge or the bench which has to decide on a constitutional matter. If it is not a constitutional matter, if it's a matter of fact, it should be left there.
Another notable aspect that was observed when Justice Lalit, during his trip to Tirumala, had offered prayers to Tirupati Balaji and lent his shoulder to carry the Hanumanta Vahana during the annual Brahmotsavams. It shows he is not shy of declaring his personal beliefs and prides himself by participating in the devotional activities, unlike few others who hide behind the facade of veiled secularism.
His act of gesture of going to Tirumala and even carrying the palanquin sends a very strong message that you could be anybody in this country, but you are humble enough to submit yourself to the authority of divinity in this country.
Justice Lalit has set the ball rolling for increasing efficiency and accountability of the top court, and there are opinions already emerging that lower courts must emulate them. By becoming an example, he has set benchmarks which shall be demanding for his successors to perform better than him.
We wish Justice Lalit all the very best in the next month or so that he's going to be around. We hope to see many more precedents from him, which the future Chief Justices may not so easily ignore, and hope he starts a revolution which shall continue as the days go by.
Please subscribe to Nationalist Hub English channel for more interesting videos, and don't forget to like and share this video. Nationalist Hub, it's a news revolution.